Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day. Alright, this is the second part of our software process model, which is we'll be covering on the second part of the content, which is focusing on four types of process model, which is waterfall, incremental process, reusable or reuse development, and spiral model. Right. Okay. When we refer to software process model, is actually describing the processes itself. Okay. So I have mentioned earlier that software engineering domain is like other engineering domain where we need to perform the task or whatever action in a very systematic order. So basically, the existing software engineers actually have come out with a set of processes which should be practices by the software engineers. Okay, so here, basically, the focus is more on the processes. So process description not only include what are the steps, but also product. Okay, at the end of one process, what are the outcome or product that will be produced? Is it documentation? Is it working software? Is it test cases that you produce? And inside the process itself also, we need to identify the roles, okay, the person in charge, and also any pre and post condition, anything that need to be done first and what need to be followed after that need to be specified. Right. So describing processes, we can categorize it into two. The first one is plan driven. The second one is agile processes. So when you heard about a process which is a plan driven, so all the processes are actually you plan it in advance, meaning that you know in a project what will be the processes involved, so you plan it ahead. So it's like the way that normally a manager knows what's going on in the system, so how many processes will be involved, so he can plan it well. Another kind of process is called agile processes. Okay, so agile processes is not easily planned because the processes are actually done in a repetitive manner. Okay, and then sometimes the process is not in the order. It is done many times, but maybe process one is done first, second, but because of the problem that happened in the process one, they will repeat it again and again, and it will keep on repeating until it meets the customer's requirement. So this kind of process, which is agile processes, is actually suitable for system that the requirement keep on changing. Especially it is suitable for a system that is new, where the customer does not have any idea um, what it will perform. Okay, there is no right or wrong for software processes. Okay, um, all right. There are actually many software processes, but the one that is in this slide is the common one. It is a big group of software process model. The well-known one is waterfall model. It has been for quite some time already, so it is categorized under plan-driven model. Right? It has a very clear-cut uh, of the phases that the developer need to follow. The second one is incremental. Okay, incremental development is more like agile, where the specification, development, and validation keep on mixing around. Okay, maybe development is done first, and then they need to repeat specification, and then development, validation, and keep on like doing it in a repetitive manner. The third process model is called reuse-oriented software engineering. So this is a kind of process model that is performed when the development of system is done on existing component, meaning that the software is already there. Maybe they want to update it or they want to extend it. Okay, so reuse oriented software engineering might use plan driven or agile. In large system, sometimes they mix this process model. Okay, when you see a diagram like this, it's like waterfall, yeah. So it's like water falling from one phase to another. So in waterfall model, you have to perform the first process first. For example, in this case, requirement definition, which is specification, and then design, and then you implement and you test it, and then you integrate. So if there are many components, you combine it together first, and then perform system testing, testing as a whole, and then it's running and it's ready for maintenance. And if there are some error found, so it will go back to the phase which are related to that error. Okay, so if you can see here, the arrow going back is only after the system is up and running. Okay, the drawback of waterfall model is that it's difficult to accommodate changes. Okay, let's say along the way when it's already in the development phase, and then the customer say, hey, I want to add another new function. So that kind of changes will only happen after the system is already ready. Then when it's up and running, and then they will come and take a look at the requirement change needed by the customer. Right? You need to follow step after step until it's ready. Then you can go back to the existing phases. Right? So it is inflexible. So you need to actually the entire process need to be broken down to several stages, and it's actually hard to respond to the customer change request. And waterfall model is suitable for a system that the requirement is very stable, meaning that it does not change too much. Okay, if the requirement keep on changing from time to time, so waterfall model is not a good option. Okay, the waterfall model is mostly used in the large system. The system is developed in several sites. So why is it saying it's good for this kind of situation? Because everything is in stages, so it's easier to divide jobs. So you can assign one development, the development activities can be done at one site, one place, another phase can be done in another phase, so it's easier to coordinate. Okay, the second process model is incremental development. So it is actually a small circle, a small cycle. Okay, where the specification, development, and validation is done in a repeated manner. Okay, the cycle is smaller. So user requirement are prioritized because this is suitable for system where the requirement keep on changing. Okay, so because there are so many requirements keep on changing, the user need to prioritize it, need to give ranking to the requirement so that they can be more focused, whereby the highest priority of the requirement will be done first, and then will be tested more and will be ready earlier than the rest of the requirement. Okay, so the incremental model is to provide the first draft as soon as possible. Okay, once the development of the increment is started, the requirement are frozen. Okay, so once it started to do the development, whatever changes that come will be frozen for a while. Okay, just to make the first cycle of application ready. Okay, um, iteration can be applied to any generic process model. For example, um, the common one, the common processes that use iteration model, there are the two approach here, which is incremental development and spiral development. Okay, So let's have a look. What does it mean by incremental? Okay, so incremental. So let's say there is a first version of description about the requirement. So it will perform specification, documentation, development, and validation. Along the way, it can fall back. Let's say they are they have prioritized the requirement. Okay, maybe they will, for the first cycle, they only want to do two of the main important requirement of the system. So they will start doing the development. Along the way, if they find it some problem or they are not clear with the specification, they will go back to specification phase. Try to strengthen or make the specification really clear, then they go for the development. If there is still some problem, they go back. Okay, and then when the system is two of the functionality is ready, then they do for validation. And if they feel along the way when doing the checking of the system there is some error, they will improve back the code. It will go on and on, and in a small iteration. Okay, so the mission for this incremental development is to make uh, the system ready as early as possible. Okay, in so that we can show the first version to the client. If the client or the customer say no, this is not what I mean, I need you to add some more, so it will go back and then add on the specification and development and so on. And then they have the intermediate version, the second version, and it will go again and again and again, several more versions before it's a final version. So that's how you could imagine on the incremental development is an iteration of processes. Okay. So it is actually good because it can produce a prototype. Okay, the user can see the system, early version of the system, so that it helps to explain to the user. So in case of any additional requirement need to be added later on. So it's actually lowering the risk uh, because the user can see it early, so the client or the customer have more idea what the system will be all about, and due to that reason we can avoid from project failure earlier. Okay, so the highest priority system services tend to be receiving the most testing. So because it will be done in a small cycle, so they normally will focus on the more important requirement. Okay, and they will be doing that, putting more effort in making that requirement ready. Okay, graphically it looks like this, right? So you get the requirement and then you try to understand the requirement, and if there are some more to be added, you keep on adding it, and then you do design, and then you develop it, you validate, you try to um, extend it by including more requirement, and then you validate the system. Okay, so in here you keep on increasing the requirement so that the system is expanded to become a system. Then you validate it, you check it, and if it's still some problem, it will go to the development phase again. So it will the incremental happen here. So in performing this incremental development, so when you are doing the development in the incremental process model, so there are several approaches, which is called exploratory. So the and another one is throw away prototype. If you are doing exploratory development, you actually working closely with the customer, um, evolve a final system. So you are making sure that you understand what the users want and you keep on updating it. And the second approach is actually which is called throw away prototype. Okay, the objective is to understand the system requirement. Should start with a poorly understood requirement. So if the developer does not really understand what the users want, so they will start with a throwaway prototype. So throwaway prototype meaning that they just make a small prototype just to get the idea of what the users want, and then when they understand, then they will throw away the prototype. They will develop a different one. Okay, Right, this kind of incremental development is suitable for small and medium interactive system. Okay, a small system, not a large one. Or if it's for a large one, maybe parts of it, especially the user interface. And it's for short lifetime system, maybe a system that is not run for a long period of time. Okay, for example, if you are developing a flight maintenance system, so it will be used for a very long time, so you don't want to use incremental model is more suitable for a system which would be used for a long time. Okay. The benefit of using incremental development is that it's good in terms of it really have close interaction with the customer, so it can accommodate any changes on the customer side. In doing that, so the system that is being developed is actually following what the customers want, requirement. Right, it's easy to get customer feedback, and the development or the delivery is actually more rapid. Okay, because the mission is to start the development straight away. Once the developer have some idea of what the users want, because they can straight away show it to the customer without waiting for the final delivery. The problem with incremental development is that, because the processes is done interchangeably, okay, specification development many times. So it's not following the normal ordering. So the manager is having hard time to trace in which stage they are right now, and because the system keep on updating and changing, so the structure of the system keep on changing. So even the number of classes have been updated or maybe reduced, okay, because of the error that they found during the processes. Okay. All right. When we're talking about incremental is very closely related to uh, uh, spiral development. Actually, fall under incremental development. Okay. It's a spiral, as the name is. It's actually spiral. It's iterative. Okay. Each loop in the spiral represents a phase. Right. No fixed phases such as the vision, specification, or design. Okay, the loops in the spiral are chosen depending on what is required. It also assess the risk and resolve through the process. So this is how it looks like. It does not have clear-cut processes, like whether is it a specification or is it a development, something like that. So how to read this? Okay, it should start from the beginning. Right, so requirement, plan, life cycle. Right, so you start to review. Okay, let's have a look at this four quadrant first. Okay, this is planning. This is to determine objective, alternative, and constraint. So this part here is basically looking whether are they on track, is it exceeding the constraint or not. This part here is more like checking of the risk. Risk is things that might go wrong. Okay, and then partly there is this part here where they do some development. All right, and then here is this is more like a prototype. This part here is basically development verification for the next level. So it's like one circle: review, risk analysis, to prototype. Okay, do some um, okay, these are more like checking the concept of operation, and then they are starting to check on the planning again. That is one cycle. Second cycle is review again, check of the risk analysis, because the scope is slightly bigger, and they come up with a prototype. Okay, and then they will do system, keep on working on the software requirement, and then it will check the requirement, and then they start to do the development plan. So it's like that. Okay, so basically you follow the steps, and the amount of requirement keep on being added. Okay, so it's still in the spiral kind of, in iteration kind of development. Okay, so I've mentioned just now in this spiral model there are 4 quadrants. So each quadrant they are having different focus. The first one is more on checking the objective. Are they trying to achieve trying to meet the objective? And then they will always check for risk assessment and reduction. Okay, what are the possible things that might go wrong? And then there is a part, third quadrant, which is on development and validation. And then after they have done validation, and then they will go and check again whether is their planning still okay or not? Are they behind track or not? Do they need to increase more people or not? Okay, you have to look at um, waterfall, which is plan processes, and then we look at agile or incremental. So we have looked at spiral model and also incremental processes. Okay, let's look at the third one, which is reuse oriented software engineering. Okay, based on systematic reuse, where systems are integrated from existing components or commercial off the shelf. Okay, sometimes if let's say the software house, they have been developing the same system for quite some time, so they have some codes which are already ready and very stable. Okay, or sometimes you can actually buy a ready system. Okay, that is what we call it commercial off the shelf, things that you can buy from the shelf, meaning that you can buy it from the market. Okay, maybe there is a company that is selling ready system, like for example you can buy WebEx, which is already ready, or you can buy Zoom. Okay, it's already ready. Okay, what are the processes for reuse oriented software engineering? Okay, the first stage is to do component analysis. You need to study first what the component can offer, and then you think about whether do you need to modify it. Okay, and then you start to design based on what is available out there, and then you do development and integration. So with reuse, you basically need to change some of the functionality, or maybe change the requirement at your side, so that you are able to come up with a system based on existing software. Okay, these are the process. Right? You identify what you want, and then you go and study what is available out there that you can use. Then maybe you need to modify your requirement a bit because it does not the requirement that you want is not supported with the existing tools. And then you do system design. You design it based on what is available, and then you might combine some of the available program, and then you integrate it, and then you go and test it. Okay, to conclude this video, I can sum up what has been covered. Basically, we have been looking at 4 types of process model. The first part was covering on waterfall process model, right? Where we'll be looking at the benefit and also disadvantages. And also later on, we look at incremental process, which consists of incremental development and also spiral development. Right. One key thing about applying these different process models, that you need to know the characteristics of each of these process model. So maybe it's a bit hard to remember all the steps here, but at least you need to know the characteristics, the benefits and the disadvantages, so that you know in what situation, on what software development type it is suitable for. Okay, and the last one is that we covered is on reuse-oriented software development, whereby it is actually referring to some of the products that is already available out there that you can choose from, where later on you need to customize. Right. We'll be covering on another content in the next video. All right, thank you.